Hey, what's going on, guys? It is Dan here again, and I'm finally making an update video on my fish tank. Now, it's been so long, I don't think you guys have even seen this new tank, let alone all the new fish. This is a 150, I think, 5x2x2. It's not filled all the way up. I know that, trust me, I've been keeping fish for near 5 years. I do know about water levels. The reason, because I'm going to get to this first because I know people are going to be complaining about it. What it is this tank is only temporary, this tank, but it's not very well built. As you can see here, there's a chip out of the glass there, and up here it gets worse, and I don't really trust the bracing on this tank. Not that there's anything wrong with the bracing, but I don't trust it enough to have, I think that's 7mm glass sitting on the top, and tempered, so it's very heavy. So I don't want this tank filled all the way up to put more pressure on the bracing with the really heavy lid. So when I get a new lid, I'll be filling the tank right up. But yeah, moving on. These are not the same shark as I've had before. I sold those two and got a new pair. This is a new Snakehead, not like I think I posted a picture of the old ones feeding. This is not the same one. You see he's pretty scared because I moved him from tank to tank and he doesn't completely trust me. This is my wolffish. He's pretty cool. I've had him since small as well. That's my knife fish. Picked him up not too long ago. This is my Oscar. This is not the same Oscar either. I've had to get a new Oscar because when you move fish tanks, when you move tanks, it's easier to sell things that are gonna make it hard to move. I did have a trio of snakeheads, but 2 of them passed because they wouldn't settle into the new tank. They just kept darting about, and must have done some internal damage because they didn't make it through the first week. And this is the pleco. He's big. That is the same pleco I've had for about nearly 4 years. So yeah, he's not going anywhere. Also, I have a red-tailed catfish back there. Is he gonna come out? Is he gonna come out? No, he's not gonna come out. But he's about the same size as the pleco-ish. I'm not gonna be one of those guys who gets a red-tailed catfish and doesn't have any plans for it, because this is the reason I want to get back into uploading, because I've got a big garage that I'm moving into, and it's going to be half of it's going to be dedicated fish room, and there's going to be a big 9-foot by 4-foot tank in there. I don't know, it might be that big, it could be bigger, I could go as big as I want. But yeah, this is just a quick update. I'm going to upload a feeding of these guys because they all go a bit mad when you feed them. So he's really skittish, not sure why. He's about 8 inches, but yeah, I'm going to upload a feeding video of these guys, so you can get a proper view of the red tail. I might put it in after this, I'm not sure, it might be a different video, not too sure. But yeah, this is the new tank. Oh, and the stand, I have to build the stand. Big shout out to Joey DIY. I used his tutorial to build this. It's very solid. But yeah, I had to build the stand. I built the lid, picked up the tank. It wasn't that expensive. I paid like $150 for it, so you know what I mean. I've still got the old tank that you guys would know, that I'm going to use that to move all the fish, because what I'm going to do is moving out of here as well, so the bed will go. I'll take down the bed, I'll put the tank along that wall, move all the fish from tank to tank, and then move this tank to the place where I'm moving all the fish. Then I'll move the fish. I'm probably going to end up selling these sharks as well. I'll try to. They're pretty hard to sell because they're really common where I live. Try to sell those, and then just buy a new set, grow a new set out. Seems a bit cold-hearted, but they're just, it sounds a bit mean, but they're just to make the tank look a bit more full. Don't have any real sentimental connection with them. But yeah, if I'm doing an update on the fish, I might as well show you this tank here. This is my mini grow outs. As you guys will know, I had an African pike, and I traded it for an Asian arowana, but then the filter packed up in my tank, and the arowana was a bit sensitive to that, so we ended up passing to. I woke up one morning and the tank was just green, and yeah, the arowana wasn't doing so well. I tried to clean the tank up as quick and best as I could, but he didn't make it. So, and ever since then, I've always regretted getting rid of my pike, as well as my big snakehead as well. It was about 12 inches, this huge snakehead. I sold him as well to the same guy who took the pike. I sold the snakehead for 80 quid, and with the 80 quid I could have brought back a snakehead and an African pike. That was the plan, but the money sort of got lost in other things I was caught up doing. So yeah, and I've only just got one back. I see one in the pet shop and I just had to have it. He's not as big as he looks on the camera. He's only about an inch, if that. Also got two peacock bass there that they're going to be growing out. These are all going to go in the garage with a much bigger tank. And as well, once the two bass grow out, I have no need to have two ID sharks. And the thing with the ID sharks, everyone says they get pretty big, like 4 feet. They don't get that big. Some of them are actually stay relatively small. I would know because I have a monster fish files on these guys. Some of them can only grow to like 15 inches, 20 inches, which is still a big fish, but my tank's 24 inches wide, so yeah, I'm perfectly capable of keeping those sharks. I've had those sharks for easily a year now, and they haven't really grown much bigger than around 50 inches, which is what they're sitting about now. So yeah, I'm perfectly capable of keeping the ID sharks, in case anyone wants to complain about that. If I'm keeping Peroon sharks or Hyphin Pangasius, then that's a different story. You know, they get a lot bigger and they don't stop growing either. Obviously I've got red-tailed catfish in there and that seems a bit cruel, but he's only about 8 inches, so yeah, I know what I'm doing, guys, don't worry about it. But yeah, the two peacock bass will eventually replace the sharks because, you know, I've been keeping those Pangasius sharks for about 3 years, and you know, you can only get so much joy out of one fish. But yeah, I've got a new pike, new peacock bass, all sitting in this tank. This is the tank that the two red snakeheads and another peacock bass were in. Those two passed because it was the same story. They just wouldn't settle down in the new tank. They're really hard fish to move. If you don't really know what you're doing while moving fish, I know what I'm doing, and they still passed. Like when you're trying to catch them in the tank that you're moving them from, if you're not really precise in how you're catching them, they'll just internally injure themselves really quickly. Same with putting them in the new tank. When you put them in the new tank, if they don't settle down, then you know they're gonna die. They're just really hard to move. I'm not sure how you get them from the pet shop to your house, but they seem to survive that, but they just don't survive moving tank to tank. It's really quite strange. So yeah, them two passed like that, and the old peacock bass I ended up selling because he would have just been dinner in my big tank at the time. And at one point in time I was actually going to quit keeping fish altogether, because once the Asian arowana died, all it was left in my tank was a Oscar, which I even sold, and it was just 2 sharks left, and it was those 2 sharks that are behind me. You can see them in the reflection. But yeah, it was just those 2 sharks left on my big tank with the bowed edges, and yeah, I was about to sell everything and just stop keeping fish. But then I think I brought the a new Oscar, and then I just sort of caught back on from there. Then I ended up buying 3 snakehead. They were all really small. They were all like that. They were all in this big tank because I had emptied out the tank, and I bought a tiny little Oscar, trying to put in a picture. Tiny little snakeheads. And yeah, I just caught back on from there. Bought a tiny little red-tailed catfish. He was like about the size of that pike, and now he's quite big. You know what I mean? And then I ended up moving them all. What I ended up doing was I put all this tank back in, moved them from a tank that was along that wall. You can see the little mold patch from where it used to evaporate out the side of the tank. And then I moved them from there to in here, set up the tank behind me, and then moved them all straight over, and they all seemed to survive except 2 snakeheads, which didn't survive the move from that tank to this tank, which was just a holding tank. It was pretty small for all the big fish I had in there, if I'm honest, but you actually see the video. Actually, I have a video on my channel of me moving the fish. But yeah, it's coming up, this video is getting about 10 minutes now. I planned it only being about 5 minutes long, so I'm going to wrap this up here. Keep your eyes out for the feeding video, and I'm going to try and post a picture up, or video even, as soon as possible on the fish room garage. So I'll see you in a bit, guys. Peace.